Hey, Anthony, how's it going?
Good. Scott forwarded this one along to me.
Awesome.
How have you been?
Surviving, man. Just trying to get the hiring stuff going, and I got the new position, so that was confirmed. Thanks.
I didn't hear that yet.
Yeah, thanks. I got the message from central office saying that I was selected for hire. So
that's awesome. I cannot wait to talk to you more now that I know that you're officially the guy.
Yeah, definitely. So,
because we're starting to work on some things with Dr. Pinder that I think will be good to clue you in and get your thoughts on before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
I got you.
But I'll just be in the background here. So
awesome.
I'm enjoying.
Yeah, we'll have some kids jump on in a minute in teams. What's up, Kalea? I also have IG Live going too, so I'm gonna. Okay. Let me pull up the do now. Share my screen. All right, so Kalea, the do now's there. We're gonna start discussing it once we get going. We're gonna give people a chance to get in. I'm gonna turn my screen around so you can see it. All right. And we're in the week 6 packet if you have it. If not, you'll still be able to do the work. And if you can get access to Teams. Do you have a packet, Kalea? The distance learning packet? Awesome. So I think we're going to be on pages 7 through 11 or 7 through 12 today. We're going to look at the maps. So if you can go ahead and get there, that'll help out for when we're in class and you'll be able to follow along. Just waiting on some of your classmates. Hey, Miss Harvey. And like always, if you're in IG Live and you want to join me on Teams, it's also up in Teams. We'll see if we can get somebody to take control of my screen so they can chronicle all our answers that we come up with as a group. We'll get going at 1 o'clock. Do now's on the screen. We're working in packet in week 6. Working on the and I'll do the page numbers once everybody's in. Hey, Michaela. Do now's on your screen. We're working in week 6. If you have it, if not, you can follow along and you'll be able to answer well, you complete the assignment in the Teams folder if you can get to it. Hey, London. Hey, Lanaya. All right, if you can go ahead and put in your comments, let me just double check and make sure nobody else is in Teams. If you want to go ahead and put in your comments, in the comments, your answer to that question. What was one of the issues facing Africa that we mentioned in our last class? What is one of the issues facing Africa that makes it difficult for us to see Africa in the spirit of our compelling question? You can go ahead and put it in the comments. Give you a chance to put it in the comments. What is one of the issues facing Africa that we mentioned in our last class? Go ahead and put it in the comments. And again, if any of you are on IG, you can join me on Teams. Give it a couple minutes, give people a chance to join. Go ahead and put your comments in, answering your do now question. I'm going to make it larger so everybody can see. It's a good answer to know because it's going to help us with our performance task at the end of the plan, which is going to be a public service announcement. We'll talk about that a little bit on Thursday. If any of you in live, if you want to join me, you can just send me a request so I can have you join the live. We don't have any we don't have any students in Teams right now, so I would love to have one of you join me on live so we can kind of work through this answer so that we can get into our lesson for today. Welcome, Zarnell. Welcome, Robert. Welcome, Camilla. Welcome, Christopher. Welcome, Jaquan. We're just getting ready to go over our do now question, which is on the screen. And one more time, if anybody wants to join me in Teams, you may. If you want to go ahead and put your answer in the comments so we can start going through this, going through our answers so we can get into our lesson for today. What's going on, Ramonte? Let's go ahead and put those answers in the comments so that we can get going. So one of the things that we talked about last week, Camilla, if you can mute, if you mute for me. So that we can get going. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute. All right, so I got a lot of people joining. Welcome, Jaquan and Naquan. So our do now, what is one of the issues facing Africa that we mentioned in our last class? So the title of the article that we went over last week was Africa is not a country. Africa is not a country. So what is one of those issues that we talked about last week that Africa was facing that allowed us to not be able, or made it challenging for us to see Africa based on our title of Sawubona, which is I see you or I value you? What is one of the issues facing it? And you can put it in the comments. You can ask to join. Camilla, I think you're the only one on Teams, but if you want to unmute and share your answer to that question, then we'll get into our lesson. We remember our article, Africa is not a country. All right. And if you want, I will share that. I'm going to share the article from last week if I can pull it up. Africa is a continent. Thank you for pointing that out. It's very important to recognize. All right. Welcome, Jayon and Darion. So if we went back to our article, Africa is not a country, I just want to let's just focus on this chart. All right. When we compared Africa and Asia and the number of times that Asia was mentioned when a specific country in Asia was intended versus when we look at Africa, where Africa was mentioned when they meant a specific country in Africa. All right. What are some of the things we observe about that? That's from our
What page is this?
So this is from our last class. It's just our do now question. What was one of the challenges facing Africa? Africa when we mean how can we see Africa, or what makes it challenging to see Africa? All right.
Have you sent me the week 5 thing yet? Because I remember I don't.
So I'm gonna show you how to get to it in just a moment. Okay. All right. So one of the challenges that makes it difficult is Africa is generalized much more than any other continent. People mention Africa when they intend to mention a country in Africa. That way, all countries have some impact when something negative happens, even if they are not close to one another. All right. And we're going to explore that a little bit using maps this week. All right. So I am going to go back to our page. So our compelling question is, how can we truly see Africa? And our supporting question that we'll be focusing on today is, how can maps help us to see Africa? So we're going to be looking at maps in the vein of how can we truly see Africa? Darion, if you would, can you read our objective for us?
Is it in yellow?
Nope, it's right here. I'll put it in green for you.
What does that first word say?
You don't know what our first word says?
No, the first 2 words up there.
They're acronyms. By the end of the lesson.
Hold up. I can't.
Can you see your screen?
I can see my screen. It says BTEOTL.
So when we read our objectives, we always start with by the end of the lesson, students will be able to.
Oh.
Just like in class?
By the end of the lesson, student will be able to analyze, analyze different types of map projections in order to identify the advantages and disadvantages and disadvantages of each type, and to compare how Africa is shown on each projection map.
Perfect. All right, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to analyze different types of map projections. We're going to identify the advantages and disadvantages, and we're going to compare how Africa is shown on each projection map. So before we get into the lesson, I just want to show everybody what accesses you have. So I am going to show you what you need to be able to do in Teams. Okay, so once you're in Teams, if you go over here to the left, let me make sure everybody can see. If you go to the left and you select Teams, you want to find your 6th grade. Let me make sure everybody can see. Your 6th grade distance learning classes. We're in geography with Hamilton right now, but before you come to my class, if you're in the general page, up here at the top where it says files, and Darion, this is for you too. If you go to files, oh, no, you do have to go to Hamilton. I'm sorry. If you go to Hamilton's class and you go to files in Hamilton's class, what I've done is I've set up folders for you. We're in our week 6 and 7 distance learning plan. So if you don't have your physical packet, but you have access to Teams, I have the learning plan in the files for you. So you just click on it and you can go through. There is one thing that I have added in the last couple days. It's your schedule. So what I want you to do is to make sure you pay attention to your schedule so you know what's due when. Okay, so we did our source A questions last Thursday. I'm going to go over that a little bit. If you haven't completed them, you have time. We read our article and you had 3 questions that you needed to answer. We are going to look at our map projections today, and you are going to complete your graphic organizer with the map projections today. We're going to annotate our article and we're going to start our graphic organizer on our own, but you are going to complete it on your own. We're going to start it together, but you're going to complete it on your own. So please pay attention to that schedule so you can get everything completed. Amaje, I saw that you finished the packet. Please just pay attention and make sure you're doing it correctly. That way you can make sure everything that you turn in is accurate. All right. And the last thing I want to do is go to the general pages to your assignments. If you go to your assignments, what I've done is I've added those 3 questions from last week for source A as an assignment. It's a quiz. You can take it online. That way you don't have to send me the physical copy. If you do it online, you can go ahead and have that count for your grade instead of having to get me a picture of your work, or if instead of having to give me a picture of your work, or turn in the packet in case you don't get the packet turned in. For today, we're doing our graphic organizer. I put the graphic organizer in your assignments tab. So even if you don't have a computer, you can do it on your phone. So you're going to click on the assignment, and this is my view, but your view will have a file. All you're going to do is click and open that file, and you're going to have the actual graphic organizer that you can edit. If you do it on your phone, there's going to be a little pin in the top corner. That's how you're going to be able to open up the file so you can type in the file. If you edit it in Teams, then that'll count. You can turn it in there. You don't have to worry about getting me a copy of it. I'll be able to access it through Teams. Okay. Again, so if you go into Teams and you go into the assignments and open up the graphic organizer, you can edit that document. You can type your answers straight into the document. And once you close it, or once you finish it, you can submit it, and I'll be able to grade it and give you credit for what you've done. Okay? So again, the assignments are in general. The learning packet and the schedule are under geography in the files. Any questions? No questions? Darion, do you know how to get to the packet digitally?
What you say, Miss Hamilton?
Did you see how you are able to get to the packet digitally?
Yes, I'm about to log in on the computer and do it.
Okay, so if you want to just follow along for right now and then log in afterwards so you can do the work, then you'll be able to do that. Okay?
All
right. So Robert, if you can do it on the phone, you just have to download the Teams app, the Microsoft Teams app, and you have to log in using your student number and ID and birthday. All right, so let's go ahead and get started for today. Camilla, can you unmute your microphone and read our 4 vocabulary terms for today?
Okay.
And I'll help you with anything that is difficult to pronounce.
Cylindrical map projection.
Cylindrical
Map projection.
Mercator
Projection. Peters projection. And Robinson projection.
Yes. So those are our vocabulary terms. All right. All of these are going to be map projections, which we'll talk about in just a minute. I want to focus on cylindrical map projection first. I want everybody to go to their article on page 7 if you have it. Page 7 if you have it. If you have your packet, we're on page 7. And we're going to go down to paragraph number 3. Okay? Page 7, paragraph number 3. All right, so hopefully you are there. Let me see who I have. Does anybody want to join me on live? We're in week 7. We're in week 7. For those who are asking on Instagram, week 7. All right, so in paragraph 3, we're looking at what a cylindrical projection is. If anybody would like to join me on live, I would love to have you help us figure out what a cylindrical projection is. All right. Does anybody want to join me on live? Okay. So paragraph 3 breaks down what a cylindrical projection is. I'm looking at Camilla in Teams. Camilla, would you like to read the highlighted words or the large words from paragraph 3 about what a cylindrical projection is? Would you do that for us?
Okay. What would Earth's features look like if the North and South poles were pulled apart so that the Earth looked like a cylindrical can, rather than a ball? This is how cylindrical projections turn Earth into a flat rectangular map. A cylindrical projection shows true directions on the globe, the true shapes of bodies of land and water, makes areas near the poles appear much larger than they really are, makes areas near the equator much smaller than they really are. but does not show accurate distance between disorientation.
Distortion. But that, thank you for reading that. So what I did was to show you what it looked like. I grabbed a video. Let me see if I have my video queued up.
Hello?
Okay. Hey, Ramonte, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I have my video here, and I'm going to show a video. Can you see my screen, Camilla? Can you see the video?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to listen to the sound, but I'm going to show you what a cylindrical projection does. Okay?
Oh, God.
All right. So what a cylindrical projection does is it takes this round globe, right? This round globe, in order for it to fit on a flat map, it has to stretch out the top part and the bottom part. So on the globe, Antarctica is down here. But if you look on the map, look what happened to Antarctica. It's stretched out much further than Antarctica is on a globe, right? And that's what the distortion is called, okay? At the top, we have the Arctic Ocean and parts of North America, Europe, and Asia. And those areas are stretched out across the top, so they look much, much larger. Let's see if we can get the globe to rotate to see where Greenland is. All right, so Greenland's right here, but it appears much larger on our map because of distortion. It appears much larger on our map because of distortion. Now, when distortion happens from taking the globe, from the round globe to a flat map, most of this distortion makes the ends of the earth, the top and the bottom, look much larger. But what does it do to the middle around the equator? What does it do to the middle around the equator? Ramonte, if it makes the top, and the bottom look much larger, what does the equator look like? What happens there?
It looks longer.
I can't hear you. Speak up for me.
It's longer.
It's longer. So if the top is made longer, would the middle be made longer too?
Yes.
So you think so? Does anybody in teams agree or disagree? Okay. So let's look at South America. Let's look at South America right here, right? So we see Greenland is kind of stretched, right? We see Greenland's kind of stretched. Does it look like South America is stretched?
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks stretched. So South America on the globe, South America on the map. What happened to the two South Americas?
One looks more slanted.
It looks slanted, right? So it got smaller, right? Let's look at Antarctica. Antarctica is just at the bottom of the earth. What does it do on our map, Ramonte?
It stretches out.
It stretches out. So at the top and the bottom of the earth, it stretches out. But around the middle, what does it do?
It gets smaller.
It gets smaller. So at the top, it gets bigger. It's made to look much bigger than it really is. And in the middle, it's made to look much smaller. What part of the world are we looking at right now? What part of the world are we studying right now? What's our week 6 about?
Africa.
Africa, right?
Yeah.
So, where's the largest portion of Africa? Is it on the ends of the earth or in the middle?
The middle.
It's in the middle. So what probably happens on our cylindrical projection with Africa?
It gets smaller.
It's shown much smaller than it actually is. Thank you, Ramonte. That was an excellent response. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some examples of cylindrical projections, and we're going to pay special attention to how Africa is shown in our cylindrical projections. All right? So at the end of this, what we're going to do is try to complete this graphic organizer. As a group together, we're going to do the Mercator projection, which is the first column, right? The first column in on your graphic organizer. There's 4 things we're looking for. We're looking for the origin of the map, meaning who made it and when did they make it. What are the advantages of each of those maps? And we're going to look for the advantages of the Mercator projection. And then the disadvantages of the Mercator projection. And what'd you say, Ramonte?
Oh, I'm just reading the comment.
Okay. And then we're going to look at how Africa is shown in the projection. Give me some hearts or some thumbs up if you understand what we're about to do as a group.
I understand.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, sir.
So did you just move on to week 6? Because you said something about week 6.
We're on week 6 right now. That's what we started last week.
All right.
Yeah.
I look at my packet.
Do you have week 6?
Yeah, I got week 6.
All right. So, Darion, if you don't have it in front of you, we're still going to have it on the screen. So,
I got it.
Huh? You got it? Okay. So we're on page 7 and 8. That's where our article is.
All right.
Page 7 and 8. And I'm glad you got your packet because I'm going to ask you to help me out by reading. Can you do that for me?
Does it say
When I get to the page.
Okay. If you don't have the page, I have it on the screen too. Okay. So I want everybody on page, I think it's page 7 or 8, wherever the Mercator projection is. And remember, we're looking for 4 things. We're looking for the origin of the Mercator projection. We're looking for the advantages of the Mercator projection. And we're looking for the disadvantages. And then we'll actually look at the Mercator projection and figure out how Africa is shown. Okay?
That makes sense.
Can I show you my screen so I can see? Can I show you my screen so I can show you the packet and see if I'm on the right page?
So follow along, and then what we'll do, Darion, is after we end the lesson, then me and you will stay on team for a couple minutes to make sure you can get to it.
All right.
All right? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the paragraph on my screen, and if you could help me out by reading for me.
What do we start off with?
We're going to start off Mercator projection. It's what's on the screen. Mercator projection.
What you said earlier when I was reading.
Oh, that's for the objective. We're just reading the paragraph as is. And I'll scroll up as you read to make sure you can see everything, okay?
Mr. Hamilton, you gotta write that down.
Hold on. Who is that?
King.
Oh, no, we're not writing it down. This is in your packet. This is the paragraph. We haven't written anything down yet. All right, so you following along, though? You know where we're at?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So Darion's going to jump in, and he's going to read that paragraph, and then I'm going to have you help me fill out our graphic organizer.
All right, the
Mercator.
What? Say it again.
Mercator.
Mercator projection was created by Flemish geographer and
cartographer.
Give me a second.
Cartographer. Gerardus
Mercator in 1569. It became the standard map projection for navigation because its unique property of
representing
any course of constant bearing as a straight segment. Such a course is preferred by navigations because the ship can sail in a constant compass direction, to reach its destination, eliminating difficult and error-prone course corrections. The
Mercator
projector inflates the size of objects from the equator. This inflection is very small near the equator, but
accelerates
with latitude to become infinite at the poles. So, for example, far large than they actually are related.
All right, hold on. So for example, land masses.
For example, land masses such as Greenland and Antarctica appear from large than they actually relative. I got a lot going on in my mind. Sorry.
Hey, no problem. You're doing a great job.
To land masses near the equator, such as Central Africa.
You did a great job. Thank you so much for reading for us, Darion. And there were a lot of difficult words in there, and you got it. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to try to go ahead and fill in our graphic organizer. All right? So, Keena, are you still on Teams?
Yes.
All right. So, Keena, what's our first thing that we're looking for our graphic organizer? Oh, and for those following along, your graphic organizer is on page 12 of your packet. Okay. So, Keena, what is the first thing we're looking for our graphic organizer? The origin. So, what things are we looking for the origin? What two things do we need for our origin?
The map for Africa?
Nope, that's the last part. We're just looking for our origin. What two things do we need for the origin of the Mercator map? What two questions are we answering? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
All right. So what two questions are we answering for the Mercator projection?
Created.
What two questions, though? What two questions are we trying to answer?
The additive.
Nope, that's the advantages. We're still in origin. We're still right here. I highlighted it for you.
Who created it and when?
Who created it and when? So we go back to our paragraph. Who created the Mercator projection? Who created the Mercator projection? I see Jaquan has put it in the comments. All right. So we had a geographer named Gerardus Mercator, and that's what Jaquan put in the comments. Okay.
And it was made in 1569.
And he made it in 1569. Okay. So that's why it's named after him. So Gerardus Mercator made this map projection in 1569. All right. And just for those that were wondering, I pulled it up earlier, but I deleted it by accident. So Flemish geographer. So Flemish is can we mute in Teams for me? So Flemish would be from Belgium. So he's from Belgium. All right. And he created the Mercator projection. Okay. That was our origin. Next up, we're looking for two advantages. Would somebody like to either put in the comments on live or unmute in Teams and tell me what are some of the advantages of the Mercator projection that were mentioned in the article? What were some of the advantages? What are some of the positives? What are some of the positives of the Mercator projection? What are some of our positives? What are some of the good things about it? And it's okay if you want to take a chance. If it's incorrect, it's okay. All right, Ramonte's going to join us in live. All right.
Oh, I thought I had one.
Oh, if you got one, go ahead and say it. It's okay.
Oh, your camera, no, I can't see no more.
You can't see
It
what?
said, because I was looking at her, and then your camera had on the art day.
You got me?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
It says the Mercator Projection inflates the size of objects away from the equator.
What does inflate mean? What does inflate mean?
I think, when something get bigger.
When it gets bigger, right? Is that a positive?
No.
No, that's a disadvantage, right? So you did identify it, right? So it inflates the size of things away from the equator. If we remember what we talked about before, all right, if you remember what we talked about before, it makes the things that are at the poles or the edge of the earth much larger, right? And it makes things closer to the equator much smaller, okay? How about a positive? Do you see any advantages? All right, so Robert in Instagram said that it became the standard map projection for navigation. Why, Robert? Why did it become the standard map projection for navigation? Or anybody else? Why is it the standard map projection in 1569 or around 1569? What's the advantage of it? What's the advantage of having the Mercator projection? What does it do that people liked? Anybody in teams? Ramonte, Camilla, if you want to jump in, it's fine. Why?
No, I found the page all that. I'm where y'all at.
Okay. Why is the Mercator map the standard map or becomes the standard map? Okay, so it does have a unique property, Robert. But what's that unique property?
That it actually has the right sizes.
It does. It has the right sizes in some places. All right.
Yeah.
But this is the one. Thank you, Jaquan, for putting it in. All right. It represents any course. What, Ramonte?
I said what he said.
So you said this.
Well, no.
That's right. That's a great observation. So the Mercator map
had it the right sizes. I said it had the right sizes.
Okay, it does. Towards the middle, it has the right sizes, but the end, it kind of stretches it out. But the Mercator map. Okay. So the Mercator map.
You want a graphic organizer?
We're on the graphic organizer on page 12 under the column that says Mercator. So let's look at our map. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and show the map again. Right? Well, no, that's not the one I want. So we're going to look at the actual Mercator projection right now. And we're going to try to figure out that advantage, okay? So sailors like the Mercator projection because if you set a bearing, let's say we're here, right? And we're sailing from Europe to North America, right? If I'm looking at a map and I set my bearings to go due east, I know that based on the Mercator projection of the map, that as long as I stay east and I don't turn, if I leave and go due east, I'm going to land exactly where I need to in the United States. Or not the United States, in North America. That's the positive. That's the advantage. If I set a bearing, which means I set my course and I make sure that I'm sailing in the right way, right? Alexis, week 6. If I'm sailing in the right way, I know I'm going to land pretty much where I set out to land. And that's the positive or advantage of the Mercator projection. Okay? That's one of the advantages. All right? And then one of the disadvantages that Darion pointed out, right? So what happens to the latitudes as we go up? What happens to these lines? We have nice, neat squares around the middle. But what happens when we get up towards the North Pole or down towards Antarctica? What happens to those sections of latitude?
They get smaller.
The rectangles.
They kind of stretch out into rectangles, right? So this might be 10 degrees. This is 10 degrees, which is about the same size. But if we go from this 10 degrees, it's much farther on the map. Okay?
Yeah. That's why you want the regular map.
So that's why it's a disadvantage, Ramonte.
Yeah.
All right, that's why it's one of our disadvantages. Now, let's go back to our article and see if we can't identify any more disadvantages or advantages. And anybody can jump in or put in the comments. All right. What is a disadvantage? What is a disadvantage or an advantage mentioned in the paragraph that we can add to our chart? Let's look at this first one, right? So we said that an advantage is that it represents any course of constant bearing as a straight segment. That's an advantage. Why is that an advantage? Who would like that? Who would prefer that? Who would prefer that in the 1600s? Am I taking an airplane in the 1600s? No. How am I traveling in the 1600s?
By horse.
By horse, okay. What if I wanted to go somewhere far away that doesn't have anywhere a horse can travel? How do I get there?
By boat.
By boat, right? So why is this an advantage? Why does any constant bearing represented as a straight segment, why does that appeal to me? Why does that make it positive for me? Why am I happy with that if I'm selling?
Because boats can't really turn too fast.
They can. They can turn fast, but what don't they have that your parents use when they drive?
A car.
They don't have a car, right? What does your parent use to figure out where they're going?
GPS.
GPS, right? We don't have GPS on our boats in the 1600s. So we don't want to make a mistake and end up somewhere we don't want to go. So what's the advantage? Let's look in that next sentence. What's the advantage for sailors of the Mercator projection? Yes, Jaquan, navigation, Robert. You all are all on top of it. Now, Robert, they do have maps. They have the Mercator projection of the map. But what is the positive? If I'm selling my ship, what's the positive? What can I do with the Mercator map? What can I do with my Mercator map if I'm selling my ship? What can I do? What does it help me do? Anybody? So Jaquan said so Darion, yes, it helps me figure out my destination. But more importantly, Jaquan said it helps me go straight to it. So it eliminates any course corrections that I have to make. All right. The course corrections are not good for me. So if I can do it without making a mistake, that's an advantage. So I'm going to add that to my chart. Okay. Now, we're almost at our time. So what I want to do is I want to take a look back at our Mercator projection. Mercator projection. Now, we can't compare Africa just yet, but I want us to pay attention to Africa, because when we compare it, when you all compare it on your graphic organizer for the other two projections, you're going to describe how Africa is shown. You said something, Darion? Okay. So you're going to pay attention to how Africa is shown. Okay. So how would we describe where Africa is? or what it looks like on this map. This is our Mercator projection. How would we compare it? What's something else on this map that we can compare it to? Alexis, you absolutely can take a screenshot of the graphic organizer. What is about the same size as Africa on this map? Anybody?
I know something that looked like it, but that was in the old pack for week 3 and 4.
So tell me. It's okay. We'll figure it out together.
I don't know the name of it, the place, but
all right. So what?
Back out week 3 and 4.
So what about what we're looking at right now? Is there anything that's about the same size as the continent of Africa? What about Greenland? Does this look about the same size as Africa?
You said what?
Does Greenland, this is Greenland, right? The territory of Greenland. Does it look about the same size as Africa?
I mean, yeah, but yes.
All right, so
yes, it does.
So let's add that to our graphic organizer. So in our graphic organizer, how's Africa shown? We're gonna type in Africa. Oh, not in there. Africa is about the same size as Greenland. All right. And you can all add that to your graphic organizer. Cool? Okay. So I'm going to put this on my Instagram page. All right. And I'm going to put it in Teams. What I need you to do is to complete the graphic organizer on your own. Okay? So we did the first column together, and I'm going to post that on my page. You need to do the same thing. You need to read the article about the Peters projection and the Robinson projection. You need to come up with the origins, advantages, and disadvantages. And then you need to describe how Africa is shown. Cool?
Yeah.
All right. So the last thing before I let you all go, make sure you tell your parents to register you, to get you enrolled for next year. If you enrolled before Friday, if your parent enrolls you before Friday, you are the first 100 students get a 7th grade shirt, heart shirt, but your parents also get get put in a raffle for lunch. Okay, they get
something?
Yes.
So when I went up there to go, why did we get our week 8 and 9 passes so early?
Because next week is week 8.
But then some teachers wasn't on week 6 and 7 like Miss Martin.
Okay, but if you go ahead and get it, then you already have it, and you don't have to keep going out when it's not safe.
No, because since Miss Martin wasn't on live. Hold up. It's cute.
Okay. All right. So, Robert, enroll for next year. So if you enroll now, then you can go ahead and get a shirt. The first 100 students get a shirt, and your parent gets they get put into a raffle. All of your teachers are going to have the enrollment website in their bios on Instagram. So you can click on the website, and all your parent has to do is fill it out. Fill out all the information, and then sign it virtually. All right? So I'm going to pull it up. Let me make sure I got it. If you want to type it in and take it to your parent right now, it's on my screen.
What is that thing they give you at the front when you come and when they ask for your information? That's an enrollment pack?
No, the enrollment has to be
do online?
Online. Okay? So
that's what I'm about to say.
yeah, it has to be online. If you already got enrolled, that's cool. But this is the enrollment website if you want to just type it. I'm going to have a link in my bio, https ://tinyurl.com/heart2020. And this is going to be in my bios, but if you want to go take it to your parent right now, you can. Okay. So the 4 projections, I'm going to pull that up for you. The 4 projections, well, it's 3 projections actually. It's going to be Mercator, Peters, and Robinson. And all of those are examples of cylindrical projections. Okay. So Alexis, even if you're not going back to Hart and you're going to still be in DC, if you get enrolled, that means they can roll it over and you won't have any trouble transitioning to whatever school you're going to. So you can still fill it out even if you don't think you're going. Okay. So again, if you want to take it to your parents, they're doing a raffle for lunch on Friday. The first 100 students get a shirt for next year for the new grade that you're going to be in. Okay. So our time is up. We're a little bit over time. If you want to stay on and we can, you ask any questions you want, I'll be here. But other than that, you all have a great afternoon. It was great seeing everybody. If you want to stay on and ask me any questions, feel free. I'll be here for at least another 5 minutes. Darian, Keena, Camilla, do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't have no questions no more.
No.
Oh, yeah. So, actually, no, because you say you're going to post it on Instagram. No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm going to post it on Instagram. I'm getting ready to put it in my bio right now. All right. Thank you all for your participation, especially for my people in Teams and in the comments and live. You all were wonderful. And it's not as good as being in person, but I still love talking to you all and seeing everyone's statements. Okay. All right. You all have a good afternoon.
All right.
All right. All right. So my people in live, I still have a couple people here. So if you have any questions, now's the time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. No questions? Can you have questions, Ramonte? You want to ask me in live? All right. So I just sent you your request so you can ask me your question. So if you want to take a picture, you can send me a message on Instagram. You can text it to me since you have my number. You can do it in Teams. Any way you can get it to me is fine. Or you can just complete the packet and turn it in to school. It doesn't matter how you get it to me as long as I get it. If you do turn it in to school, make sure your name's on it. Make sure Jaquan's name is on it. All right. So I have about 30 seconds before I hit my time and it cuts me off from live. So any other questions, just send me an email, send me a direct message, and I'll make sure you get it. I'll make sure you get what you need. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end this thing.